So this video begins with a picture of the tires of the original 911 and the current or yesterday 911, so still very recent. You see that it's so much wider, so much different type of, how do you say that? Geometry that's in there, so the pattern that they use for optimization. And that's something I want to discuss with you today. So, of course, what is the benefit of that? That new tire gives you so much more traction and can handle so much more power. But there's also a drawback, and I will tell you what it is. So the power has risen increasingly, so extremely, but the feeling of that car in a bend, and that you're pushing it to the limit, is thereby also so much higher. So you will feel a lot more resistance to turn in with a lot wider tires. And of course, it's the benefit of handling the power for the acceleration, but it can also, and for the braking as well, but it can also be a detrimental effect for the feeling. So as you are driving a car which has not that extremely wide tires, you will feel a lot more direct feel. And there are still some cars that have this. And those cars have limited power, as you can imagine, because otherwise you will run into traction problems. But how can I still compete then with modern cars? Because they're extremely lightweight. So for example, Lotus Elise and Mazda MX-5 or that Suzuki Swift that you know that I have are very light. And therefore you need less power and also less wide tires. But it gives you more driving feel than that extremely wide tires as you see depicted there. If that Porsche came still on the same tires, you will really struggle to get that power on the ground. So it will feel a lot faster than when you effortlessly put the power on the ground. In reality, it is faster when it gets the power on the ground, of course. So less wheel spinning, etc. But also the turning would feel more direct. I'm not saying that you would get higher turning speeds. But the benefit of the feeling instead of the actual performance is that you don't have to drive that fast. Especially if you're driving on normal roads, the normal roads instead of track use, then you still feel that essence of sporting riding or performance driving instead of breaking all the traffic laws, speed laws, for example, or whatever. So you can have a lot more fun with narrower tires as compared to wider tires. And there's also a benefit, for example, if you're not running into performance drawbacks, as I mentioned, you don't get traction or you cannot brake as fast as you need, that you still have less rolling resistance. Because if the tire is double the size, of course, double the width, you can also increase the rolling resistance to about double. So the resistance of the wheels on the road, because the surface is also increased to double the size. So there are some things to consider. So this can be beneficial rolling resistance for top speed, but also for fuel consumption. Things to consider. I'm not saying that you should get tires that are a lot less wide than you get off factory, especially if you're tuning your car. Then you will put an additional strain in the acceleration to get the traction. But the thing is, to get wider and wider tires, especially for show purpose, will also ruin the feeling of handling. That's something I want to say. And especially if you have a front drive car and you get very wide tires at the rear, that you see on some VW Polos or the likes, that's not so beneficial because you have extreme amount of resistance. If this is the back, if that is now, instead of so narrow, double the narrow, it will resist going into the corner. Whereas if it has the same tires and the same tire is wide, it will not resist as much. Or even if you have smaller tires at the back, it will go easier in the corner. But it can also be very tricky. If it gets lift off oversteer, or you get an oversteering reaction. And also the thing is, with front wheel drive car, it's not a traction issue for the performance of your engine, because that's on the front wheels. So if you want to widen the wheels, on your front wheel drive car for traction issues. Perhaps get only at the front wheels a little bit wider tires, but then please note that the handling will differ as compared to the stock version, because it will be more apt to oversteer compared to the stock, because the back tires are the same width as they started out, so the connection of the front tires, it is now, instead of so narrow, a little bit wider, and the back tires are still as narrow, so it will be easier to oversteer. Hope this helps. Also the braking, most of the braking is done by the front tires. Hope this helps. Wishing you a great day. Pound Car out.